Hi, I want to welcome you back. This is True Texas History. I'm Jeff Murrah, and I'm glad you're here today. Today it's March the 5th. Now, on this day in 1836, it was the day when Colonel Travis went ahead and gave a speech to his men about this dire situation they were in and the need to go ahead and buy some time for the young Republic of Texas. And he reportedly, took out his sword, drew a line in the sand, and people went over it. I know if you've seen the Alamo movie, John Wayne's, you see it illustrated there. I talked some about Moses Rose yesterday, and that's our source of that story. It came down to us through a few historians. Things were getting desperate. Now, I'm not going to be online tomorrow, but tomorrow is the anniversary of when the Alamo fell. In that battle, it was an early morning battle. Mexican soldiers crawled on their bellies across the field under the cover of night and launched their attack in the cool of the early morning. And the first attack failed, got pushed back, and of course, they came back again and again, and finally they broke through and killed all the Texans there that were defending it. It's hard to talk about that one without getting choked up. But anyways, I also wanted to deal with some other aspects of Texas history today, mainly because it gets forgotten with everything that goes on with the Alamo. Everybody's attention on the Alamo. We forget about what was going on over at Caney Creek back in 1864. You say, gee, what was going on in Caney Creek? Well, let's go ahead and put it this way. You know about the Battle of Galveston and how our men went ahead and recaptured Galveston from the Union forces. Now, they had also taken the town of Indianola, which was an important city in Texas at that time. They had, I want to think, roughly about 4,000 men there. They had a considerable amount. Gunboats were going up and down the Texas coast, shelling our towns and cities. And the Texas commanders were concerned about that. And fortunately, there were a series of forts at different places, like at the mouth of the Brazos and at Caney Creek and a few others. And whenever the gunboats would come up, they would attempt to sail up the river, and the men in those forts went ahead and fired upon them and fortunately discouraged them. At that point, a lot of the Union effort was on the Red River campaign and trying to break into Texas that way. But the plan was, once the Union forces broke into Texas, the ones there on the coast would shoot up into the heartland and do their damage. Now, we had local cavalry that went ahead and engaged them in a series of skirmishes on the coastal prairies. Now, I go ahead and mention this because it was they occupied Indianola until March the 13th, 1864, at which point, the transports came and they took them out. But not before sacking the whole city and taking all the valuables, silver plate, gold, coins, everything of value from the people, which, is unfortunate because, about a year and a half before that, they had a yellow fever epidemic. People had died. So essentially, you had a pandemic situation, and the Union forces took advantage of that, moved in, went ahead and bombarded the people beforehand. And then once they got in there, they went ahead and took all their valuables, and then they left, and no one talks about it. But that was going on in March of 1864. So March was a busy month in Texas, but I wanted to go ahead and cover that one to make sure that was addressed as well. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to write them below. I know the situation on the Caney, it's fascinating. They've found all kinds of artifacts and buttons and guns and, what those soldiers left behind. And it's one of those corners of Texas history you don't hear much about. But hope you all have a great weekend. Looking forward to it. And until then, vaya con Dios, my friends. Goodbye.